My wife and I decided to live amongst nature, and a friend of ours showed us this place, and it's living in nature, that's for sure, and it's close to Los Angeles.
Even though there was a lot of work to do to the house to get it back into shape because it had been through the original landslide in 1956, but it had stopped, and boom, it's in this gorgeous place and surrounded by nature.
I decided to live here because of the beauty. It was an easy decision to make when the house came up for sale. It's also the land of the Gabrielino Tongva people, so I felt that real draw to certain areas here.
I moved here because my parents bought it in 1984, and my wife and I had just gotten married, and we wanted to have our kid here, and we did. And it was partly for our kids that we wanted them to be in the schools up here. They're decent quality, and so that was kind of a motivator.
My husband and I moved to Portuguese Bend 26 years ago. We moved from just outside Yosemite. We had 60 acres where we built a home and a studio at the fork of two rivers, and I thought I'd never leave. But Bill wanted a horizon, and he wanted to be by the ocean. As nice a community as we could find in Southern California that we could afford, that was near the ocean, in a nice climate, in a sweet little community. So here we are.
I started this journey in woodworking about 50 years ago when I was going to Cal State Dominguez Hills, and I realized that I wasn't going to follow through on the academia path, and I bought a lathe with a friend and got started when I was in college, and it just, I knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. It really was instant gratification working on the lathe.
I've always adored this coastline. I've lived in the neighborhood just up the coastline in Hermosa Beach, and would travel down here regularly, and I'd paint down here. I would come down here to do plein air painting, and I've always been super inspired by painting in nature. Wherever I lived, I wanted to always live in a beautiful place where I could just be inspired.
The nature is so beautiful. First of all, we're living by the ocean, so it's not only nature, but it's the climate, the weather is just beautiful. You step out our front door or back door, and we're in it.
I remember when I was working every day as a teacher, and I had to drive to Manhattan Beach every day and get up at 6, and could get up early in the morning if I wanted to or not, and get my coffee and just sit and listen to the birds and, feel the mist of the fog that comes in, and walk around my garden.
There's something unattainable in this place that most people can't have. And that value is this incredible feeling of blessings, because a lot of people don't have this wilderness and this beauty.
If we didn't have land movement around here, we'd have wall-to-wall housing, because, the view of Catalina out here, that's hard to beat.
So Portuguese Bend, offers a lot of privacy and community, which is a hard balance to come by, speaking of Equipoise.
I love to see the storms come and go, different times of year it's completely different, and we get the whale migration, almost daily dolphin activity. We've had just exciting adventures.
Cycle of life. We see the cycle of life with the birds of prey, the coyotes, the plants, actually even now with the land movement is part of the cycle of life. My first love was ceramics because of the physicality of it. I'm a physical, more athletic person, so I like to be involved physically with my art. So ceramic art was just a nature, and the discipline of ceramic art and being a potter was something I was really interested in.
I do sculptural wooden vessels, and my feeling all along is to try and make them as expressive as I could, to try and touch the viewer in as many ways. So I want you to feel a sensuous response, some mystery, some curiosity. I want you to, I want to lead your eye in a little journey. So that's really been my path, is just trying to keep investigating the vessel. So I've textured it, I've pierced them, I've cut them completely apart, reconfigured them, and on, just whatever I could do to have the vessel make a different expression.
At first I did only enamel on pennies, and now I do enamel set in gold and silver with gems and all sorts of things like that. But the enamel just caught me from the very first time I tried it, and I am still using primarily the toy kiln that I bought when I was in high school.
I do fairly traditional as far as realistic art of everything, the world that surrounds me, from people to places. I earned a living for a long time as a decorative painter, meaning that I had to do murals or gold leaf or painted marble or painted wood.
I started doing paintings on old documents, they're called ledgers, and being native, I decided to do sort of pictographs or pictography, storytelling on these old documents. So my images would be on old ledgers or song sheets from a particular time.
I'm a painter primarily, but I also do ceramics. I taught ceramics for many years, and so I ended up putting all my creative energy into ceramics for about 20 years. So I go back and forth, but now, currently, I'm working with just discarded things. Like the idea is not to consume, and it's all environmentally conscious art, and it's almost like the materials that I use become what the art is about.
It's called assemblage. The key word here is assemble. So objects that I found or given to me, I sometimes tear them apart and re-put them together, or just different objects, assemble them in such a way that I feel that they're interesting or make a statement.
When I'm happy and feeling positive or consciously being optimistic, my work just reflects who I am. When I'm angry, the politics enters into my work, and sometimes that's just subtle, and sometimes I spell it out. And in the case of making a piece for this show, I made a piece that's peaceful.
I found a painting that I had done a few years ago when I came down here before living here, and adored it was a November landscape where the light is so unique and the clouds are so unique. And so that's what I'm going to be showing in the exhibition instead. Something I did previously before living here when I was wanting to live here.
I am working on a landscape that is of Sacred Cove looking out towards Catalina Island. It would be nice to be able to go down there and actually look at it, but can't do that right now. But fortunately, I do have lots of photographs of Sacred Cove, so that's what I'm using for resource.
The colors are calming and reflect nature in the greens and the aquas. There's a tree in it, but there's also some very rigid gray forms that show the strength of my neighbors and the determination of them to maintain their homes and keep our community together, which is basically like a big family.
I'm working on a series, and it's going to be a sculpture. It deals with the way our house is on steel beams, and the steel beams are called pylons, which is basically thick pieces of wood, just kind of, or cribbing, like a baby crib. But these cribbings hold the steel beams, and the steel beams hold the house. That's our foundation now. So I'm going to make a sculpture, and to get the feeling of our house and its foundation.
The piece I thought of, and it's a woman, I think it's a self-portrait, honestly, and she's in quadrant. She looks like she's swirling, in a sense, between her imagery. She has red-tailed hawk, again 4 of them, and antelope, and then there's sage on all 4 corners. And being native, those are all the symbols of nature, and each one of them represent things like courage and strength and well-being and all these things that we pretty much need in this time.
It represents parts of different series, one of which was sea foam, that lyrical chaos that the bubbles kind of present. And so that's the pierced element in the piece I'm doing. And then there's waves that wrap around the vessel, and there's some texture, which could be an afternoon breeze, changing the texture on a swell or something like that.
My most current work, and the work that's going to be in this show, is working with damaged books, and I'm layering them, and I have an idea to do a sculpture out of these book pages. But the subject matter is really about what's going on here in Portuguese Bend with the land movement, and it's kind of geology and map-based. That's how it ends up looking.
I don't know if the land movement itself has influenced my art, but the land definitely has. This is the landscape that I grew up with, and I am very attached to that landscape.
Well, I think because it is so dynamic, as an artist, it stirs me within. And from the movement of the land to how much the peacocks don't care, the hawks don't care about the land movement, it puts me somewhere in between.
Well, before the landslide, it was just paradise, and Now we need to be strong and get that paradise back, do what we can do to keep this area intact. That's one of the biggest gifts of this community, is that it's just a beautiful spot to create.
We are deeply into art and fixing up the house, not only because it's a fixer-upper, but because of the land movement. But the artwork, we're in our studios and we just, appreciate the quiet and the time that we have in doing our artwork.
There's not a gas station or, a restaurant or a liquor store within miles, and it's just this beautiful place. So I value this it's sort of a phenomenon. It's unprecedented that we have this area that's just filled with beauty. And I feel really fortunate to be here. Still, always will be.
Living here influences your artwork because of the different types of nature that you're living within. The different types of birds that cycle through, the flowers and the plants that come and go, the whales that go by, and then there's the movement, and which reminds you constantly of the fragility of life and the inevitability of change.
I hope that this is a philosophy that we can use here in the landslide or anywhere in our life, that we try so hard to control everything that it just, ends up breaking. If we just kind of let nature move its course, maybe we'll just flow with it.